create the administrative structure for their departments. That CEO is not, we'll look at an organizational chart and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But the CEO would be under the functions beneath the board, not over the independent elected officials. They are independently, and their bosses are you all, the citizens. So there would not be any responsibility for them to manage the independent elected officials. Yep. So we started this in September 2022. We've met once a month since October, the group has. I've been working with, doing interviews with staff, elected officials, others around, gathering information. The advisory committee has met, and maybe during the Q&A, both Commissioner Wright and Robbie can talk a little bit about that. We met with, I think it's 9 counties, might be 8, with both administrators and non-administrators. So we really looked at those counties that have done this process before, what's worked, what's not worked, how would they do it differently, what's successful, etc. We're working with alternatives, ideas, and options right now, what those would look like. We've got 3 more advisory committee meetings scheduled at this point, and planning to deliver a set of recommendations to the board in April or May. I don't know whether there'll be consensus recommendations, but we definitely will be delivering a set of recommendations for the board to take a look at. Next slide. So we're really thinking about this, I would say pretty methodically as we've gone through this. We've been building what I call the principles around what have we heard. As we build an organizational structure, we build it around the principles that are being laid out. So there's a lot of discussion about making sure the board is, and the organization is structured in a way to have strategic direction. That they are looking to create opportunities for the board to not just deal with the administrative minutiae inside government, but also be leaders in the community, regionally, etc., so they can focus on some of the larger strategic issues. I'll give you one example. When I was a commissioner, I spent an exorbitant amount of time on a federally qualified health center in our county. And particularly because we noted that our primary care was being delivered in the emergency room. And we had a lack of access to primary care facilities. So, one of my external responsibilities was to help the community get through that application process and the decision to create a federally qualified health center. We had a county administrator. If I had to spend time simply thinking about the day-to-day operations and the personnel minutia, it would have prevented me from perhaps utilizing my position externally on representing the county in that effort. So those are the types of things that the group's starting to look at. Clarity of roles. If you create a position like a county administrator, you have to have tremendous both clarity of roles and delegated responsibilities to that county administrator, and then you have to create the discipline within the board and the staff to adhere to the clarity of those roles. And so that's some of the things we're working on. A big difference between strategic direction and execution. Wanting to make sure that the board creates the opportunity for the direction, but there's clear authority for execution and implementation. And a focus on that, and focus on outcomes, focus on performance metrics, etc. So it's good for the organization. Creating efficiencies and improving effectiveness, delegating and pushing decision-making to the appropriate level, improving communications, internal and external. Personnel management and some things around HR. 75% of a county current expense fund is in people. It's the largest single expense within a county current expense fund. So, and 75, you take that a step further, 75% it's also in the criminal and civil justice system then as well. So, called the double 75s there. But, we are HR focused. Our investment is in people. And so how do we make sure we're building the culture of excellence for that organization? The authorities that might be granted, the skills and competency of a county administrator, but there are concerns and considerations, and there's challenges associated with that. So we're spending time in all of these functional areas. And in fairness to the whole group, we're not going into any details here because they have not really refined the recommendations that will come out of this. Next slide. I think I'm getting close to the end. Yes.
Yep. Wait, you missed your big chart.
Well, dang it. Let me.
I have two different magnifying glass I could pass
I'm trying to see if there's a way we can do this.
Yeah, I might be able to.
It's the current organizational chart for the county. So the current structure is you have the 7 independent elected officials. You have the judicial branch, and then you have about half a county government is administered by that group. So about the 7, in particular, the jail and the sheriff are the largest, usually in every county, the largest individual group. And then, again, half a county government administered by the 7 independent elected officials in the judicial branch, half of the government administered by the Board of County Commissioners. You have roughly, I'm going to recall, roughly 17 different direct reports to the Board of County Commissioners, ranging from extension office to airport to public works, planning and building, noxious weeds, the fair and events, human services folks, veteran service officer, let's see, I know I'm missing a fair amount of facilities, solid waste. Gosh, there's just there's a large group. One of the things that we've been hearing a lot about is what is the right number? What's a sweet spot? As we listen to both counties that had county administrators, counties that did not have county administrators, that is a lot of people for direct supervision by a Board of County Commissioners. And particularly a Board of County Commissioners that want to spend more of their time focusing on other things besides the day-to-day operations. So county government, and keep this thought in mind, since most of you understand our representative democracy pretty well, what are the 3 branches of government? Executive, judicial, and legislative. 3 branches of government. You will be hard-pressed to find another example where the Board of County Commissioners holds 2 of those 3. Where they truly hold both a portion of the executive branch and the legislative branch. They hold 2 of those 3.
And quasi-judicial.
And then you have quasi-judicial for land use and some other hearing type things as well, which adds to a whole nother set of challenges. So what this attempts to do is, how do you potentially bifurcate the responsibilities of being an executive, a manager, a supervisor of personnel versus your legislative authorities and your policy authorities under the legislative branch? And can you still have a structure that you can't get rid of that in this in a uniform system of county government. The board is always going to have that. The only way you're going to get rid of that authority is to do a county charter. The board is always going to retain the responsibility for oversight of the functions that are beneath the Board of County Commissioners. Now they can restructure that though. We saw counties that created, Chelan County is a good example. They have 5 super departments. So they have 4 departments and then a kind of a central services department. They have public works and services, public health, I think planning, and I can't remember what their 4th one is. So you can restructure your functions beneath the board, super departments to call them. But now you take a look at it a little bit differently. We've got a number of counties that have created this county administrator structure where you have a CEO, county administrator, county manager, chief of staff. There's a variety of terms and functionalities you can grant them that is directly beneath the board. And then there's other techniques that are delivered by that group to say what departments then report to the chief administrative officer. How do you aggregate or consolidate departments? Because can a CEO have 17 direct reports and be effective? Probably not. So now you really have to start thinking about groupings. And so the committee has been working through pragmatically through those types of thinkings as well. And now we start to think about implementation, we start to think about transition, you start to think about a lot of things associated with it. So while it sounds just simple to talk about hypothetically, you also have to have a good, strong implementation plan as well, communication plan as well. So a lot of work that's being done in this realm. I would say we still have, what, 3 meetings left, a lot of work left to do before we submit something. And there'll be a number of steps past that before the board probably can even get to decision making as well. So, questions?
Thank you, Eric. Yes, we'd like to open it up to
Yep.
questions if possible.
But we have Cory.
Is Cory, would you like to speak?
Well, questions at the
And
end.
then
Robbie.
we'll open it
Sure.
up to that.
So I'm going to steal a line from Eric that he uses and he uses it well. There are 3 job requirements for a county commissioner. Number 1, be at least 18 years old. Number 2, pay your filing fee. And number 3, get one more vote than the next guy. So that's no slam on who we have here, not at all. This is, I think, a very good board right now, working well together, really trying to solve problems, which is why this has moved forward. We call ourselves, though, sometimes the 3-headed monster, because we do not make decisions individually. We can certainly assign a task to a department head, and the right response for that department head is, that's great, let me take it to a study session and get one more vote, because all of our decisions need to be made in open public meetings. This being said, when it comes to a personnel management standpoint, it really bogs it down. It becomes an impediment to effective organizational leadership. I kind of lost my train of thought there. I've had some really good trains of thought, but Eric does such a good job of filling in the cracks there. The challenges, and I've said this in office, give me the legislative or give me the executive, but don't give me both, because it is a struggle. It's a struggle to be a good leader and yet still fulfill those legislative duties which we are bound by, and also by the Open Public Meetings Act. We have to be transparent in our decision making, and sometimes personnel decisions are not for public consumption. Oh, let's be honest, right? These are delicate matters, and to have a professional who has spent their time understanding the processes, but also understanding how to lead, how to communicate, how to get those nuances of leading people. That's a skill set that you don't just pick off the street based on age, paying your filing fee, and one more vote. So this is a recognition by our organization that we need to do better. We are now approaching 50,000 people in this county. When this first was brought up by the league 30 years ago, I think the population was probably about 29 to 30,000 at that point. We're now 20,000 past that. And as these issues accrue and begin to stack up, we are left in a deficient position, I think, at times as leaders, considering the amount of challenges that this county faces.